Hello everyone, this is Smite on YouTube or Patient Zero with an X on Twitch. Today I'm going to provide a little bit of an advanced tutorial on how to clone an ATS profile folder into a new one for a new community that you may have joined that say either uses a different base map or uses different mods altogether. So in order to make these changes, first off I need to inform you that this will only work with local profiles. It does not work with Steam profiles. I'm not going to cover on how to, convert your Steam profile to a local profile. There's different videos on YouTube for that. This video right here is just going to cover the cloning process and editing process to get you ready for a new community. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because other than changing it for, say, base map and changing your name, say you already have a bunch of custom trucks in there, you've got a bunch of custom hired drivers, you've got your trucks set up just the way you want them, you've got paint jobs, engine configurations, transmission configs, you've got your garages exactly where you want them, you've got all your controls and buttons set up properly with an ATS, and you don't want to go through the hassle of having to set that up all over again or lose your XP or lose your money. This helps you retain all that when changing communities. So if you happen to truck for different communities like OTR, Wright's Trucking, Lady Bear, or if you're just doing it for fun like in Left Lane or Rain's Clan and you're not collecting miles for those two particular groups, same thing applies. Again, it's just handy to have everything backed up and ready to go for a new community. So without me continuing on to rant and rave, let's go ahead and get started with this. So in order to do these changes, you're going to need two websites. You're going to need an S2 decoder and you're going to need a string to hex converter. So you need an S2 decoder website because your files are encoded by default. This is the way that SCS just does things. Your profiles are encrypted by default and they do need to be decrypted. So, and the second thing is that your profile folders are going to be saved in hex format. They're not going to be saved in plain text. So you have to properly match the profile that you want to clone into the new profile that you want to use with your new community. So if you end up going into your documents folder here, you'll see that there's an American Truck Simulator folder, and inside that there's going to be a profiles folder. And as I said, all of these are saved in hex format. They're not saved in plain text. So then you're asking yourself, oh, okay, well, how do I know which one I'm working with? Okay, so what you need to do is, select a folder for, well, I've got 4 of them here, so I'm just going to choose one. And I'm going to try and get that hex. And I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go into our string to hex and hex to string conversion website. Now this one here is provided by CodeBeautify. You can find it at codebeautify.org/string-hex-converter. The link will also be provided at the inside the video description. And I'm going to go to hex to string, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that string. And there we go. And then you see that we've converted that hex to our profile name. So you're looking at that and say, hey, yeah, that is the one that I want to clone. Okay, perfect. So now that we know that we're working with the folder that we want to clone, we come back into our profile folder. We're going to go ahead and clone it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste that. And there's the clone of the profile that we were just using. So now we have to rename this in hex format to the name of whatever we want for our new community. So for example, I'm just going to, pick on OTR because I did 200,000 miles for those guys. So we're going to come back into the website here. We're going to, instead of do a hex to string, we're going to do a string to hex. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in patient 0-OTR, and there is our hex converted format that we need for our new profile folder. We're going to go ahead and copy that, come back into the profile folder, and then we're going to rename that, paste in that new name. There it is. That's step 1. So now we have our new profile folder. Done. Now, go ahead ahead and double click inside that and copy the path, the entire path of that new folder. And we're going to come into the S2 Decode website. Now this one here is located at sii-decode.github.io. This link will also be provided in the video description in case you didn't happen to get that. And then now that you have your full path copied for that new profile folder, go ahead and choose File, or click on Choose File, and then paste in that directory or folder path. And then we're going to look for profile.sii. It'll be right here down at the bottom. If you have advanced views turned on, you'll see a profile.sii. If you do not have your advanced views turned on, look for SII. Double click on this guy here. And the website will automatically and instantly decode that SII file on the fly. You come all the way down to the bottom of the file and you'll see the name that we need to change for our new community. But we can't edit it here. The website doesn't give us the ability to do that. So we need to download the decoded file. And again, make sure that you're working with the correct directory. And then double click again on that profile.sii file. And it will say it already exists. Do you want to replace it? Go ahead and click yes. There it is. Okay. Profile is saved and overridden. Then we can go ahead and come back into that folder, and we're going to go ahead and edit it. Now, as you notice, at the same time it increases the file size. That's the key giveaway as well, knowing that your file has been decrypted, as it will also increase the file size from say 6 kilobytes into 27 kilobytes. Now we can go ahead and edit this profile folder, and we need a text editor for that, but you can pick your poison. You can use Notepad, Notepad++, Visual Studio, whatever you use to edit your text files, and then bring that up in your text editor. Now if your community is using a different base map, and what I mean by that is not the base SCS map, this is a custom map and not a map add-on. There is a difference. Map add-ons are Discover North America, North to the Future, Coast to Coast, ProMods Canada, things like that. Those are map add-ons that add changes to SCS's base map. A base map itself is completely different. It has no involvement with SCS. You don't see any of the SCS cities or roads or anything like that. Think of it as a completely different world that you're loading into when you start up the game. That's what a base map is. So when you open up that file, now ignore my changes here. They're not going to really apply to you at first, but as you can see, we're looking at line 6 of our profile.sii file. We need to change that. If your community is running a different base map. If not, if they're still using the stock SCS base map, you can leave this line alone. But if your community is running a server that, say, uses Kingdom of 12s by TT12, you need to make this change. Otherwise, what's going to happen is when you go to load your old profile and you try and connect to their convoy, you're going to get an error that says missing map data. And it doesn't matter if you've got that map SCS file in your mod folder, it's going to kick that error message at you, and then you're going to go scratching your head and saying, well, why doesn't this work? That's why we need to change line 6 in the profile name, or in the profile file. So if you're working with, say, Kingdom of 12s, you have to change this line here where it says map/d or usa.mbd to map/dtmap.mbd. Once you've made that change, your profile, as soon as you go ahead and click continue career in ATS, it's going to load that base map. Now, in order to make the change to your name, you're going to have to come down again to all the way down at the bottom of your profile.si file, locate that name that was once your old profile, and rename that to, say again, like with me, I just changed it to OTR. So I'm going to save that as patient0-OTR. And again, as I said, it has to match 100%. If you're using uppercase, it needs to match. Because when you're working with hex, if you're working with uppercase and lowercase, those values change. So again, make sure it matches 100%. So now that we're done with renaming this particular name, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Done. Now we can validate that this profile is going to load in ATS just by, firing up ATS. So I come down into my trucks book that I have here, or you can go ahead and fire up directly from Steam, but I use Truckbook. So I'm going to fire up ATS. And I'm going to bring OBS into scene 2 for you here, so that way that we're looking at ATS all together. And there we are. So go ahead and click OK on that. It always does that when you fire up the game. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my profiles up here. Now, this is the last profile that I was using in game, so yours is going to be different from mine, but that's what the game does by default, is it always runs the last profile that you were using. So go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, there we are. There's our newly created clone profile ready to be changed for your new community that you have just joined. So you can go ahead and click on that and hit select career. And you can validate that again that all your mods are intact, because as you can see with mine, we see mods 20 active. And I've already got the SCS file in my mods directory already for that DT12 map. As you can see down at the bottom, here's Kingdom of 12s. Done and done. My configurations for, buttons and settings and everything else from my wheel are intact. I don't need to make any changes to that. I'm going to exit my manager, and I'm going to go ahead and hit continue career. And now again, this is a clone of my Kingdom 12 profile. It's going to sign me into World of Trucks. It's going to load up the game. And there we are. And there's my header build. So everything was left intact. And I'm going to go ahead and choose Quick Travel. And this is just a brief little layout of the DT12 map. As you can see, it's completely different from that of the base SCS map. You're going to see that none of the dots are going to be there that you recognize from your SCS profile. They're not going to be there. If you're working with Kingdom of Maps 12 or Kingdoms 12 already, you're going to load up in your previous location that you were already visiting, say like Kemp's Hill. If you've never used DT12 before, it's going to drop you by default into Magedy, just to let you know. It's whenever you're working with a custom base map, it's always going to drop you in that first location if you've never played with that base map before. And if you're running with new profile, well, again, you're not going to have garages, right? It's just going to give you that dinky little shed, with only one parking spot for one truck. Where with this, you can go ahead and click on, hey, Magedy, you're going to end up loading again in that single tin shed with only one space for one truck. But with your saved profile, if you have enough money in XP, you can easily upgrade that garage, upgrade it to 3 or 5 trucks, bring your currently loaded truck that you see here, like say for example my Hayter-Built, I can bring that into the garage, I can save it into that garage location and continue to do so with my other trucks that I have within my profile, or create new custom trucks, again using the money and the XP that I've already earned. Done. Easy peasy, right? Anyways, I'm gonna get out of ATS now that we all know that it's done. And then I'll just bring it back to my main scene. So anyways, hopefully you didn't find this video too confusing to follow. If you have any questions or have any complaints, concerns, whatever, forever speak, as they say in marriage, forever hold your peace. But I was never married. Sorry, bad joke. Leave any comments or questions in, the comment section below. Again, for those 2 websites, you'll find them in the video description. And again, hopefully you found this really helpful. Again, don't ever create, new profiles when you come across communities that say you need to do it. You don't need to do it, honestly. You may have to remove a couple of mods from your new profile to line up with what they're using. A lot of the stuff that these communities use anyway is based off Steam Workshop, unless they're using a paid mod like Pister 389 or maybe something from Heavy Hull Customs. Those are really the only changes that you need to make to the new profile is just to line up your mods to match theirs. And that's it. You know, just saves a whole bunch of time and hassle of not having to configure everything all over again. But anyways, I digress. This is Smite on YouTube and Patient Zero with an X on Twitch. Wishing you guys a great day. And again, drop a line or into the comment section if you have any questions or concerns regarding this video. Okay? Thank you very much and have a great day.